Hello there, campers. My name is Paul Hughes. I am the Lord of Leisure, and welcome back to my front room for another Aftermath video where basically I pontificate my thoughts and ramblings about a film I just watched at the cinema. And I do have a cup of tea with me. So, cheers before I carry on. There we go. Tonight's Aftermath video is all about Crazy Rich Asians, which brings us together with lots of lovely people from Singapore, where a Chinese economics professor called Rachel is going out with a jolly dashing fella called Nick, and who's been invited to be his best friend's best man at his wedding, and wants Rachel to go along with him back to Singapore and also to meet the family. Okay, doesn't sound that silly at all, does it? Except that it turns out Nick is also the heir to a ridiculous amount of wealth. His entire family, in fact, are, well, the way that they're portrayed pretty much are the royal family of Singapore. So therein starts things, situations to arise, that things, potentially start going a little bit, potentially the standard romantic comedy type of affair. Now, I am not the demographic for romantic comedies. Absolutely far from it. So, the thing is, everything I'm about to say you can take with a massive pinch of salt. In fact, Deadpool is my type of romantic comedy. Wade and, Vanessa. Oh, they're beautiful, beautiful couple. Mwah. See? And obviously there's various amounts of bloodshed and dick jokes and everything else about it. So, hey, came out during Valentine's Day. So, yeah, classed romantic comedy. That's all I'm saying. So, with that in mind, the type of thing I would watch as a romantic comedy and so forth. It's not everyone else's idea. So, take what I'm about to say with the grain of salt that it deserves, because I am not this target demographic that the film is set out for. Clearly, the target demographic is women and potentially couples where the lady has dragged along the man to watch this, because this is some Crazy Rich Asians is one of those films that have been getting a huge amount of traction. It's been getting great reviews around the place, and thus a lot of people want to watch it, and also have been recommending it to me to watch. So, with all that caveats out the way, I hated this film. Why? Because it's not a romantic comedy. It has been very much missold as far as I'm concerned. The best I can describe Crazy Rich Asians is it's a drama with attempts at humor at some points, which are going to be hit and miss. Now, the bits where there were humor, they did get laughs from ladies in the audience. So obviously, again, entirely subjective. You could say anyone's humor is, one thing is funny to someone, blah blah blah. Get that, absolutely get that. But the romance was few and far between, actually, and kind of two-dimensional in many respects. And if I were actually to, when I say that this thing was missold as a romantic comedy and should have actually been a drama, where they call this film Crazy Rich Asians, I am very tempted to replace the word crazy with vile, because that's the best thing I can think of to describe the vast majority of the family and friends in Singapore of Nick's. I will say this, I think Crazy Rich Asians is also perfectly fine with casual racism to throw out there, where everyone's guilty of it. I mean, they have effectively in the very first scene, London in the mid-90s, where Michelle Yeoh, who amazing actress, by the way. And every scene she's in this, she's bang on being the brutal hard mother of Nick. So don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with her performance. She comes into the hotel with her family. They're soaking wet outside. They say they've got a reservation in a suite. The staff are saying, "Oh no, there's not," and they get the manager involved, and then they make a racist remark about maybe you've had better luck in Chinatown, obviously. And then Michelle Yeoh goes and has a chat with her husband on the phone, who then proceeds to buy the hotel and thus make the staff respect them and everything else, because the owner just comes down and says, "Get them set up in the suite immediately, because I've just sold the place to them." This is in the opening 5 minutes, so it's not. This is the type of setup that they're going for here. So we see Rachel being happy with Nick in New York. Rachel does game theory as an economics professor, basically because she's showing students on how to win at gambling. Obviously, a great thing to do there. And it's when we get to see Singapore and everything else. I mean, effectively, the first few minutes of when they land in Singapore is basically one giant tourist advert. Make no mistake, they're basically showing Singapore in its entirety, and it looks like a lovely place. So the Singapore Tourist Board can be very happy that they've spent their money on the film, actually making sure that they show off what Singapore's it looks like, at least, the nice touristy bits. So yay, come to Singapore, spend money. They've nailed that to a T. But it's after that's where the problems for me really start coming in, and that's where definitely I say it's a drama. Now, without giving too much away, there are a few moments which actually then sent me into the point where I could not be rescued back from. Absolutely. Some of the family are vile little bastards who, frankly, you would hope never to meet in the street. They're so buried in their own arse that they can't, they'll never ever see daylight. Again, that might have been intentional as part of the material. There's a couple of members of the family that are actually more grounded, like Gemma Chan, who's Astrid, Nick's sister, who she comes across actually not only she's nice, but obviously has spends money and all the rest of it, blah blah blah. The family themselves, Michelle Yeoh's character, the grandma, and a few others, do take to the racism approach when it comes to Rachel, dismissing her because she's American and also comes from effectively a single parent family, of which they then dig up later on and spring on Rachel as well throughout the history and everything else. And bear in mind, Rachel had no idea this was coming, and this is where I have a huge amount of fault with Nick as well, actually, as a character, where if you thought that you were going to marry this girl and you thought things were going to go well, and therefore you were going to introduce her to the family, you would warn her against all this stuff. He didn't, and the way that she gets blindsided so much by what happens, including the shallow, superficial, pretend friends that she encounters, including an ex-girlfriend of Nick as well, and all of whom during a hen party, bachelorette party thing on a private island, which is as vapid and brainless as you can possibly think. They leave a dead fish with its guts spilled out over her bed, with accusing her of Rachel of being a gold digger for Nick, where she had no idea about any of this. She did not ask for any of this bullshit, and that's where effectively I got lost. I was not on side with it anymore, and frankly, all I wanted for the character of Rachel to do was just get out of it. it was not worth it. None of that shit was worth it. I know it's about love and all the rest of that stuff. I get that. Absolutely. And I get where they were going with cultural differences as part of the story and so forth. But the way it was presented and the way that people were overall, that's where I get away with... that's why I can say absolutely this is a missold film. It is a drama with occasional attempts at humor. It is not a romantic comedy. And frankly, what I get out of it is rich people are bastards. Singapore is a lovely place to visit. Act now, please come visit. And also, there are, no matter where you've come from, no matter what society you've grown up in, surely there's got to be some level of decorum. And I get that, yes, different cultures and so forth, and also different traditional roles of what the husband and the wife are supposed to be in marriage and blah blah blah. I get all that of why it was set on there. It was just the way it was done. Like I said, I think the title of the film would have been more accurate if it was called Vile Rich Asians, because it is mainly the rich people who are vile in this picture. And I know we're to root for Rachel to have her dreams come true and all the rest of it, but you know what, I don't blame her for just saying fuck it towards the end. And in fact, it is only Nick, because things are that bad, it takes Nick behind his family's back to basically rescue the situation. And then he's ultimately, they're effectively facing the choice of they can be happy together, but then Nick basically leaves his wealth and family behind. To be fair, that's a hell of a choice, although they make it kind of a one-sided, obvious choice, frankly. But they go too far on the vileness that obviously, when it comes to the ending, they have to massively pull it back. Come on, everyone's equal, and maybe we got it wrong, blah 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 blah. It's kind of rushed, and in essence, the ending's not deserved. Realistically, the ending would have been Rachel getting on that plane and saying "fuck y'all," but obviously, romantic comedy, yeah, that didn't happen. What I would say is I have a huge amount of problems with the material and how this film's been sold. The acting, for the most part, is grand. The funny characters, for the most part, aren't funny. I mean, to be fair, there was one bit during a fashion montage for Rachel that it did get a chuckle out of me. Did, absolutely, because of some of the silliness that was happening. Most of the other pretend funny bits, and again, this is my subjective humour, so by all means, please, salt, massive rock of it at this point. Got a few smiles out of me, but I went between, throughout watching the film, I went between feeling bored and angry. I don't think that's what you were going for somehow, filmmakers, were you? And even with the bits of drama and where they were going with the different lifestyles and blah, 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 they still stick to a huge amount of tried and tested tropes. So in essence, you can see when there's obviously going to be something wrong, where there's going to be an affair between... something going on with the other characters. You see where there's going to be a face-off type thing. It's so fucking telegraphed that about halfway through, that's when the film had lost me. It was not going to get me back. And as it stands, I don't know. Look, I'm definitely going to have much more laugh. I'm putting this on afterwards to get some bloody humour back and end the night on a good laugh. Because Crazy Rich Asians, I'm sure they had some ideas that they thought would be, more and what have you, but to me, overall, it's been missold. It's a drama. It is not a romantic comedy, and I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to have someone point out how it's not about elitism, not about people accusing you of being a gold digger, not putting you through all sorts of shit and then just blindsiding you with some shit about your family that comes out of nowhere. All that love, not maybe, as I said, because I'm not the demographic for this, and I look at this in a different way, that I've missed some of the points. If I have, by all means, let me know. But would I recommend anyone watch this? No. Absolutely not. I mean, I will say this, though. It's not the worst film of the year. That honour so far, even though it's just September, goes to I Feel Pretty. That was a fucking insult. Absolutely. This... It's a drama with some racism bits, just casually here and there. It's not like all through the film. It's just there enough to shock you, because you did get some gasps in the cinema. How dare people say that? But no, it's there for, I think, just the shock factor more than anything else. It's not it. This is a film I will not watch again. I'm happy I did watch it. So now I obviously was able to talk about it to your fine selves on the internet and what have you. But would I ever recommend this? No. Would I ever watch it again? No. Absolutely not. I'm going to have far more fun with this now, frankly. And if anyone is like me, watch this instead. Far funnier. Oh dear. Anyway, campers, that's my take on Crazy Rich Asians, or perhaps, as I said, Vile Rich Asians, because that all more accurately describes the rich Asians and other people with money involved from this. And I still say that Rachel should have just left them all to it and said, fuck y'all. Absolutely. Maybe you'll have better luck with it, but if it's going to be recommended, it ain't going to be from me, and I absolutely hope I never sit through it again. There's plenty of other things I'll be happy to watch with my time. Hell, The Predator would be potentially could be more described as a comedy than this, and that had some very questionable humour and certainly a lot more blood and guts and everything else, but yeah, that actually made me laugh. This at best got a chuckle once. So there you have it, campers. I'm now going to go and drink my tea and watch Deadpool. I've been the Lord of Leisure. This has been my aftermath video of Crazy Rich Asians, which is now out in the cinema. Don't go watch it if you're looking for a good time. Don't. Until next time, take it easy, and I'm not going to make the mistake of going by like that with a bloody hot drink in my hand. Afterwards. So until next time,